The first is from Rumi. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you've built against it. The next excerpt is from a talk by the former president of Ireland, Mary McAleese, in remembrance of what's been called the Christmas Truce of 1914. And by sheer, sorry, this feels like it's blocking me from you. I had all kinds of other readings that I was thinking of on this topic, but by sheer chance, this event, the Christmas Truce of 1914, I never knew of before, but yesterday it came into my view from 3 completely different sources, and I just felt like it was asking in some way to be listened to, so I am bringing it to you. And it also, it brought to mind and heart for me in really powerful ways how even in the most unlikely context of outright enmity and hatred of war at a front, where the barriers are highest to love, that even there it's possible to treat each other with love and connection, even enemies who've caused each other great harm. So in her words, on the Western Front on December 24th of 1914, thousands of soldiers from the British Expeditionary Forces huddled in miserable conditions in the trenches. Their spirits were low. All around them hung the menace of war, and in every breath the imminence of death, their own deaths. The German lines were only 100 yards away. One young soldier, Rifleman Graham Williams, on sentry duty, suddenly noticed little Christmas trees lit by candles shimmering and sparkling along the German trenches, a gift, as it turned out, from Kaiser Wilhelm II to boost the German troops' morale. It caused a flurry of childlike excitement all along the front. On the German side, the soldiers were stirred to sing the beautiful Christmas carol, Stille Nacht. Williams was shocked and thrilled to hear that, since it was also very familiar to him as his favorite Christmas carol, Silent Night. He excitedly told the other sentries and woke his comrades. They gathered and stood listening and looking in disbelief. There was no order, no command. Unprompted, they too began to sing Silent Night. Further along the Western Front, George Laurie, a lieutenant colonel commanding Irish troops, recounted how at 11 o'clock that same night, the German soldiers had called out, "Do not shoot after 12 o'clock, and we will not do so either." The men from both sides scrambled out of their trenches and walked toward each other in no man's land to exchange chocolate, cigarettes, and stories about their loved ones at home. An officer in the Scots Guard, stationed elsewhere along the line, later described to his family how, on Christmas Eve, his fellow soldiers had begun singing "It's a Long Way to Tipperary," to which the Germans responded with "Es ist sehr weit zu Tipperary," right? Before long, a chorus of Germans, Scots, English, and Irish was merrily performing a rousing rendition of Auld Lang Syne. So, and in a film that I just happened to see yesterday called Shadow World, it's a new PBS film about the arms trade fueling wars and having done so for many decades. It included really moving footage of this same night that showed the soldiers actually coming out and dancing for each other and with each other. I mean, literally like arm in arm dancing with each other. It's incredibly moving. She continues, the former president of Ireland. Letters described how conversations took place between the soldiers in stilted English and broken German, and how even officers on the two sides exchanged scarves, gloves, and any other of the scarce and valued personal items that could be offered as gifts. These were gifts that it really cost to give, and the cost was in mercy, not money. Poignantly, in many places along the front, the temporary cessation in fire was used as an opportunity to retrieve the broken, dead bodies of soldiers that lay strewn across no man's land. All of this introduced to them the common humanity of the other and a desperate hope that somehow the commandment to love one another could cut through the hopelessness of war, if not now, then sometime. The tentative goodwill evoked on both sides of the trenches that Christmas, 1914, were not enough to counteract the imperial political imperatives and warmongering of the day, a war that would last 4 more years with millions dead. Within days of that evening, many of those same young men had killed one another, willingly or otherwise. Yet somehow that strange musical interlude that gave each one of them the very same holy night, calm and bright, has become a stellar memory of the triumph of simple humanity when compassion for one another bubbled to the surface through crevices in unsealed human hearts. The third excerpt I brought for today is from the words of Chris Hedges. Some of you may remember him. He was a New York Times war correspondent, very hardened, hard-boiled, had been at he was fired from the New York Times for openly opposing the U.S. invasion of Iraq. And he spent many years reporting from, on location from some of the most war-torn, devastating, horrific war zones, including Iraq and Syria, Afghanistan. So in other words, he's an unlikely person. The reason it struck me is because he's a very unlikely person from whom these words would come. So in reflecting on the horrors he witnessed, he noted, Dostoevsky said, "Hell is the inability to love. And that's what kills people. I fully get why people blow their brains out. It's really hell. And I don't use love in a kind of Hallmark schmaltzy, we all gotta love each other kind of way. I'm saying that the only way you're healed from those experiences is by reestablishing a connection with that kind of power with another human being. And if you can't do that, you don't survive." Thank you.